Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class from Canto 2, which is entitled The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 5, which is entitled The Cause of All Causes. And this morning we're doing texts 40, 41, and 42. So without further delay, we'll start the class. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privātikacārya Stotara Satasishimada's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privātikacārya Stotara Satasishimada's Divine Grace Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवाचार्य गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय मथुरा धाम की जय नवद्वीप धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय सामवेद भक्तविंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Namaste, Vishnuvaraya Prabhupada Sutapani, Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Namani. Narayana Namaste Narum Chevam Narottamam, Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tatujayam Gudirayat, Nashta Praiswa Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, Bhagavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So, good morning, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This morning, Srimad Bhagavatam classes from Canto 2, Chapter 5, texts 40, 41, and 42. So 40 to 41 is on the screen now, but I will read that and then we can chant together text 42. All right. Tat-kaṭyāṁ cātalaṁ kḷptam, ūrubhyāṁ vitalaṁ vibhoḥ, jānubhyāṁ sutalaṁ śuddhaṁ, jaṅghābhyāṁ tu talātalam, mahātalaṁ tu gulphābhyāṁ, prapadābhyāṁ rasātalam, pātālaṁ, pāda-talata, iti lokamayaḥ pumān. Word for word translation. Tat in his, tat-kaṭyāṁ waste, cha also, Atala, the first planetary system below the earth. Kḻptam, situated, ūrubhyāṁ on the thighs, vitalaṁ, the second planetary system below, vibhoḥ of the Lord, jānubhyāṁ on the ankles, sutalaṁ, the third planetary system below, śuddhaṁ, purified, jaṅghābhyāṁ on the joints, but talātalam, the fourth planetary system below, mahātalaṁ, the fifth planetary system below, but gulphābhyāṁ, situated on the calves, prapadābhyāṁ, on the upper or front portion of the feet, rasātalam, the sixth planetary system below, pātālaṁ, the seventh planetary system below, pāda-talata, on the bottom or soles of the feet, iti, thus, lokamayaḥ, full of planetary systems, pumān, the Lord. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My dear son Nārada, know from me that there are 7 lower planetary systems out of the total 14. The first planetary system, known as Atala, is situated on the waist. The second, Vitala, is situated on the thighs. The third, Sutala, on the knees. The fourth, Talātala, on the shanks. The fifth, Mahātala, on the ankles. The sixth, Rasātala, on the upper portion of the feet. And the seventh, Pātāla, on the soles of the feet. Thus, the virāṭ form of the Lord is full of all planetary systems. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Modern enterprisers, the astronauts who travel in space, may take information from Srimad Bhagavatam that in space there are 14 divisions of planetary systems. The situation is calculated from the earthly planetary system, which is called Bhuloka. Above Bhuloka is Bhuvaloka, and the topmost planetary system is called Satyaloka. These are the upper 7 lokas or planetary systems. And similarly, there are 7 lower planetary systems known as Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talātala, Mahātala, Rasātala, Pātāla, and Pātāla lokas. All these planetary systems are scattered over the complete universe, which occupies an area of 2 billion times 2 billion square miles. The modern astronauts can travel only a few thousand miles away from the Earth, and therefore their attempt to travel in the sky is something like child's play on the shore of an expansive ocean. The moon is situated in the third status of the upper planetary system, and in the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we shall be able to know the distant situation of the various planets scattered over the vast material sky. There are innumerable universes beyond the one in which we are put, and all these material universes cover only an insignificant portion of the spiritual sky, which is described above as Sanatan Brahmaloka. The Supreme Lord very kindly invites the intelligent human beings to return home back to Godhead in the following verse of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 16. Abrahma bhuvana loka punar avatin arjuna mam upetyatu kanteya punar janma na vejate. Beginning from Satyaloka, the topmost planet of the universe, situated just below the eternal Brahmaloka, as described above, all the planets are material. And one situation in any of the many material planets is still subject to the laws of material nature, namely birth, death, old age, and disease. But one can get complete liberation from all above-mentioned material pangs when one enters into the eternal Brahmaloka Sanatana atmosphere, the kingdom of God. Therefore, liberation, as contemplated by the speculative philosophers and mystics, is possible only when one becomes a devotee of the Lord. Anyone who is not a devotee of the Lord cannot enter into the kingdom of God. Only by attainment of a service attitude in the transcendental position can one enter into the kingdom of Godhead. Therefore, the speculative philosophers as well as the mystics must first of all be attracted to the devotional cult before they can factually attain liberation. Text 42. Now, after this, and if you want to chant, you can chant the text also. Bhuvaloka kapi Bhuloka kalpita padyam Bhuvaloko sanabhita Swaloka kalpito mudham Itivaloka kalpanam Bhuloka kalpita padyam Bhuvaloko sanabhita Swaloka kalpito mudham Itivaloka kalpanam Bhuloka kalpita padyam Bhuvaloko sanabhita Swaloka kalpito mudna Itivaloka kalpanam. Hare Krishna.
Bhurlo-
Sorry, Prabhu, go ahead.
Please go ahead, Mataji.
Burloka kalpita padbyam Burvaloko svanabhita Svarloka kalpito murdna Iti valoka kalpana. Hare Krishna.
Bhurlokah kalpitapadhyam Bhurlokah kalpitapadabhyam Bhuvarloko asya nabhitah Swargalokah kalpito mudhana Itiva loka kalpana. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Purvaloka kapita pāda-talata Ūrubhyāṁ sanabhitaha Sarvaloka kalpito murdaha Itavaloka kḻptam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? We'll do word for word now. Bhuloka, the entire planetary system from Pātāla to the earthly planetary system. Kalpita, imagined. Ūrubhyāṁ, situated on the legs. Bhuvaloka, the Bhuvaloka planetary system. Asya, of the universal form of the Lord. Nabhita, out of the navel abdomen. Swaloka, the higher planetary system, beginning with the heavenly planets. Kalpita, imagined. Mudna, from the chest to the head. Iti, thus. Va, either. Loka, the planetary system. Kalpana, imagination. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Others may divide the whole planetary system into three divisions, namely the lower planetary systems on the legs up to the earth, the middle planetary systems on the navel, and the upper planetary systems, Swaloka, from the chest to the head of the Supreme Personality. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The three divisions of the complete planetary systems are here mentioned. 14 are imagined by others, and that is also explained. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the second canto, 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Cause of All Causes. Oma Gyanati Virandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshu Anmulitam Jigna Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadatikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirveshesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshitarini Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Varatashe Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. So texts 41 and 40 and 41, English translation. My dear son Nārada, know from me that there are 7 lower planetary systems out of the total 14. The first planetary system, known as Atala, is situated on the waist. The second, Vitala, situated on the thighs. The third, Sutala, on the knees. The fourth, Talātala, on the shanks. The fifth, Mahātala, on the ankles. The sixth, Rasātala, on the upper portion of the feet. And the seventh, Pātāla, on the soles of the feet. Thus, the virāṭ form of the Lord is full of all planetary systems. Hare Krishna. So in this part, which is described in texts 40 and 41, the Lord is talking about, the Lord Brahma is talking about the lower 7 planetary systems. So the whole planetary system are situated such that there is a form of the Lord that plays out, for lack of a better way to put it. And it's described in such a way that for some people, it's convenient to look at the form of the Lord based on the planetary systems. And that's why we call it the universal form of the Lord. So literally, a human's form, because we use the human being's form, we have one literally. That's what's used to describe the higher planetary system, which starts with Brahmaloka. It's also called Satyaloka. Sometimes the word Brahmaloka is borrowed for the spiritual sky. But in that time, they will write Brahmaloka, then they will write Sanatan also, because Sanatan is eternal. The spiritual skies, and planets are all eternal. They're never destroyed, whereas the material planets, they go through a cycle of destruction, cycle of coming to being from Mahavishnu, then being around for a while, and then they annihilated. So that's the cycle. After they annihilated, they again will come to being at another time. It's all arranged by Lord Karanodakshaya Vishnu, also called Mahavishnu. So the entire material world and time, all of that comes from the Lord Vishnu. And he also expands himself into Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, so that after the universes come out, then in his expansion as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he is actually present, the very soul of each universe. So he expands himself to innumerable forms. So sorry, there's some thing that came on my screen. I had to get rid of it. Anyway, so yes, there's the form of the Lord, innumerable planets, I should say. And Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is the one that is the trainer or the coach, if you will, of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is born from him, and also how to put the varieties of a universe into being, how to create those, all of that is done by Lord Brahma after he gets after he gets the coaching from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So Lord Brahma actually is the one that creates the varieties for each universe. There's also a universe for each universe, one Lord Brahma. And Srila Prabhupada describes to us that in this universe, the size is much smaller than other universes. Other universes in the material world much bigger than the universe that we're in now. So the planetary systems for this universe, now we'll talk about only this universe. The planetary systems are 14. And sometimes there's a description in terms of just the top ones and the bottom ones. So then it's divided, as we know, 14 divided by 2 is 7. Therefore, 14 planetary systems. There will be 7 upper and then 7 lower planetary systems. That's one way in which that's defined. And then, because there are heavenly planets, and then also planets that are lower, so between that are the middle type planets. So again, there is, nobody disputes the fact that there are 14 planetary systems, but sometimes the bottom part, the bottom of the higher planetary system, that is the 7th, if you count the top one as the 14th, Brahmaloka system, and then down, by the time you get to the 7th, 8th one, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, that's 7. Beginning from the letter 8, if you count it, you get 7. So the one at the bottom, the counting from 14 down to 8, that's the earthly planetary system or Bhuloka system. So, and the Bhuvaloka system, that's it's considered the medium planetary systems. And then below that, we call them the lower planetary systems. So the reason we brought it up is that text 40 and 41, that's describing the lower 7 planetary systems and where they're situated. And then text 42 describes the other way in which others look at the planetary system, which is the higher planetary system, the medium planetary system, and then the lower planetary system. So one school of thought divides them 7 and 7, higher and lower. And then another school of thought, yes, there's 14, but there's higher, and then at the bottom of the higher is medium, and below the medium is the lower planetary system. Now, still, there's not much of a dispute there. It's just that There's one that describes it in a little more detail than the other. But basically, there's agreement there in terms of the positions of this. So, in the lower planetary systems, then we'll talk about it, and then we'll just describe a little more about what we should do in terms of relating to the material world. So Nārada is the son of Lord Brahma. And so Lord Brahma says, my dear son Nārada. Then he describes the lower planetary systems, because earlier he had described the higher planetary systems and where they're situated. So the one that's closest to the earthly planetary system are called Atala, and that's situated on the waist. That is, again, assuming the form of a person, the universal form, like a person, the person's waist, the Lord's waist in this case. And the second is Vitala, that's down to the thighs. And then the third, so we're going down the form of the personality. The third is on the knees, it's called Sutala. The fourth is Talātala on the shanks, and the shanks are the part of the body between the knees and the feet. The fifth is Mahātala on the ankles, and then the sixth is Rasātala on the upper portion, the top of the feet, and then the soles of the feet has Pātāla. Now, the Woodies obviously are looking to get to go back to Godhead, to leave the material world altogether. But this is Srimad Bhagavatam, and everything is, not left unturned. Whether it matters directly to us or not, it's all described so that, because Srimad Bhagavatam talks about everything practically. All subjects are there. You'll find it in one way or the other, it's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada takes advantage of the situation and says that, well, these people who are astronauts traveling in space, they don't know the planetary systems, the way it is situated. So they could get some knowledge from the way it's described here, the 14 planetary systems. And he talks about the earthly planetary system, obviously because that's where we're situated. That's what we know, the Earth. And in Sanskrit, that's the Bhuloka. Earth is part of the Bhuloka planetary system. So if you look at those who describe or if you consider those who describe the 7 top, the 14 and the 7 and the lower planetary systems, then at the very bottom of the upper planetary systems, at the very bottom is the Earth, Bhuloka, where the other people talk about it's a middle planet, right? So that's the way that's described. And on top of that is another, which is also considered the middle planetary system, Ūrubhyāṁ. Then it goes up to the next one, which is Swargaloka. And that's what starts the heavenly planetary systems. And it goes up higher, Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and then Satyaloka. So by the time Satyaloka is mentioned, we're talking about the top of the head of the virāṭ rupa, the universal form. Srila Prabhupada also mentions a little more about sizes. The whole universe occupies an area of 2 billion times 2 billion, which means 2 times 2 is 4 square billion miles. 4 billion square miles, to say. 4 billion square miles. Yeah, it's even unimaginable. And so since he talked about astronauts could learn from this, he brought up the subject again of astronauts. What are they capable of doing? Well, what they have now, these space machines, can only go a few thousand miles away. What I have heard, literally, there's one video on YouTube where the astronauts themselves were talking about their distance from the Earth at that time. And these were people trying to go to the moon. They mentioned that they were 250 miles away. 250,000 miles away. Now, the moon itself is millions of miles away, almost 100 million miles away. So they went somewhere, but whether that's the moon, that's debatable. And also, Srimad again talks about the type of weather on the moon. It's very, very, very cold, very cold. And the videos that we see don't show anything, or no word is mentioned about the weather there. Mm-hmm. So they got somewhere. It's possible to go to another, one of the closer type systems close to us in this same Bhuloka system. That is not impossible to go to. Mm-hmm. But as far as the moon itself, or what they thought was the moon, it's doubtful that they actually reached it. Because the moon actually from the earth, based on their own calculation of where the sun is from the earth, you add the moon's distance from the sun, that's 1.6 million miles. And then they say the sun from the earth is 93 million miles. So based on this, the moon is 94.6 million miles away from the earth. And those in the space capsule saying they were only 250,000 miles from the earth. So obviously they were not on the moon. They were somewhere else, but not on the moon. Mm-hmm. Anyway, and then there are other situations also that's described in Srimad Bhagavatam as to who is allowed, under what condition someone is allowed on the moon. Again, nobody here qualifies for that situation, mm-hmm, to be even allowed on the moon. Mm-hmm. So Srimad Bhagavatam describes that there are many conditions that it would take for a person to get to the moon. A life based on the mode of goodness gives you a very good chance, because those to get on the moon, that is, those who are there are pious people are on the moon. The entities are pious. So nobody in mode of passion and ignorance, like many people are on the earth, will get a chance to go to the moon. And there are certain rituals too that we have to go through. So suffice it to say, I don't want to beat it to death. They thought they were somewhere they thought was the moon, but it couldn't possibly have been the moon. Now, through this, Srila Prabhupada also says what the material world really is like, the way the devotee is supposed to perceive the material world. And he says, in the Lord's kindness, he invites the intelligent human beings, because we have better intelligence than the non-human species. The Lord is inviting the human beings to return home, back to Godhead. And in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 16, that is said, Abrahma bhuvana loka puna avatino arjuna. Mam upetya tu kanteya punajanma navidyate. So he's describing what is the situation in the material world. From Brahmaloka, which is also called Satyaloka, down to Pātāla, which is at the bottom, based on the universal form, the soles of the feet of the Lord, they are all places of misery. Anyone that's born and dies and goes through old age and goes through disease, at the very least, part of their lives is miserable. Nobody is happy when they're sick. And certainly, in the portion of the population on this earth are old people. And if they want to really open up to you and tell you what it is like, they don't like being old. Especially since you've been young before and were able to move around and get a lot of things done. And the body was cooperating. And now the body doesn't cooperate much. It slows down. And there's pain at any time. And then also sickness, because the body is breaking down. Mm-hmm. Now, sickness, that happens to everybody. Young or old, even babies can get sick. But in the old age, the pain of the body breaking down is actually sometimes unbearable, but it's definitely a botheration. So this happens on all of the planets in the material world. That's why the Lord is inviting us to go back to Godhead, even the upper planetary systems. That's not freed from suffering. There's just less suffering, but it is there. There's no zero suffering in the material world anyway. Zero suffering, that's spiritual world. You have to get to the spiritual world first before all of these difficulties in the material world ceases. And we go, of course, when the soul comes out of the body, the soul is the real living being. The body becomes a corpse, and then the soul can travel on. But the preparation is bhakti yoga. What we are involved in, as Srila Prabhupada is teaching all of us, and that we share with each other. So, yes, the spiritual world, and that is the bigger world compared to the material world, is 3 times as big as the material world. So if you imagine the whole, then 25% or 1/4 is the material world, and 3/4 is the spiritual world. Much, much bigger. All of the planets, we don't talk about spiritual universe, we just talk about the planets. But the planet, each planet in the spiritual world is bigger than even the biggest universe in the material world. Each planet in the spiritual world. And clearly there's so many living entities back there in the spiritual world. They are not in the material world. They are enjoying a life of full knowledge. They don't die. They're eternal. And they are always in a loving and very, very happy atmosphere or mood. That is what we'd like to have. But we can't have it here. Because, one, there is suffering here the way things are designed. Even life, just the life, living life here, is based on going after another living entity. You see that the large animals in the jungles that are whose system is such that they have to eat meat, they go after the other animals that they can overpower, chase them, kill them, and eat. And a good bit of the time, since sometimes they are successful in capturing another animal of lower strength, or sometimes they're not successful, a good bit of the time, they're actually hungry. Lions, tigers, and so they're hungry. And so it's a difficult life, but that's animal life. We don't even care too much about animal life. But even in the human situation, there's man's inhumanity towards man. And it spills out as wars. And then the weather also just jumps on us at any time. The very things that we need, the 5 major elements, earth, water, fire, air, and space. We need that to live. Our body is literally composed of these 5. But the same 5 elements can also give us problems. Earth, we definitely need the earth to survive because we live here and what we have to eat comes from the earth. The soil supports life, plant life, so that we can be sustained. But that same earth can crack at any time or shake at any time. We call it an earthquake. And people are dying. It happened in Japan only a few days ago. And it's happened in the California area a number of times. Water. We definitely need water. The body needs water. And so we live with water when we purify it, but water can also cause a problem. If there is a tsunami, it's a tidal wave, very, very, very high, as tall as buildings, and people can lose their lives with water. Or sometimes in the places that are cold, the same water changes form from liquid to solid, which means ice, and people sliding on the ice can hurt themselves, or cars can cause even more damage to people who are in it. But it's water, the same water that we need. Then fire, to cook, for the body to be sustained, it comes from the energy of fire. But fire, if it engulfs a building, forget it. So there is all kinds of things that can happen with mountains. Sometimes it spews and all of this lava comes out, and it's all very, very hot, and it can actually, immediately kill a person when the person is unfortunate enough to be in the wrong place. That's fire. The fire that we need is also a destructive thing. Earth, water, fire, air. Air, yes, we breathe air, but when there's a hurricane, that's a different story. It is the same air, but this time it's whizzing around, tornadoes whizzing around, circular, very, very, very strong and destructive. Then there's space. Well, we definitely need space. We're walking in space. Everybody has a certain amount of space that they occupy, the very size of our bodies. But what happens? If you have a machine that can fly, an aircraft in the air, taking you from one destination to another, if anything goes wrong, and you know that nothing is perfect in this world, anything goes wrong, that machine is coming down. It's going to crash. How are they able to crash? Well, they crashed because they were in space at a certain height from the Earth. That was the reason. And through that, gravity just simply pulled that machine down, and usually everybody that's on board that plane loses their lives. That's usually what happens. So earth, water, fire, air, and ether are the 5 major elements that sustains us, but they also can cause a problem for us. So basically, the material world is only a situation where, for anybody that has got good intelligence, and that's for human beings, we should look to see, well, do I want to continue like that? Can't there be a better place? Now, as soon as those kind of questions come to mind, then the same Krishna who is present in our heart as the Paramatma begins to make arrangement for us to understand the situation we're in, which is what we're going through now, preaching and hearing, and begin to prepare to go back. Yes, the answer is there a better situation? Yes, there is. But in the spiritual world. So how do I go there? Well, in this yuga, we hear the holy name of the Lord to understand Krishna better. And then we also chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, which means, O energy of the Lord, O Radha, and O Krishna, please engage me in devotional service. That is our way of living. Serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through whom everything came from, both the spiritual and the material. So that's why when a person thinks that way, hears what needs to be done, and makes the decision out of our own free will to abide by that, that is, to keep hearing, to chant the holy name of the Lord, and go by the meaning of the Hare Krishna mantra, which means, please engage me, dear divine couple, in devotional service to you. Goes by it, which means begins to serve, as is explained in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam by Prahlad Maharaj. There are 9 ways of serving. Do those, hearing and chanting are the first 2. Then also remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have to live our lives remembering. And the way we remember is that things that remind us about the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be around us. Pictures, music, things that we can hear and use other senses, the sense of seeing, the sense of smelling, just like Maharaj Amrish did. It's also in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He used all his limbs and all his senses to connect to service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mm-hmm. So that is the way in which we can remember the Lord, by using our senses to connect to things that are about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then we remember the Lord. We are servants of the Lord, accepting that the servant should offer respect to the master and go by the master's instruction. So we offer obeisances. The master's instruction, Krishna's instruction, is we approach spiritual master, and the spiritual master is Krishna's representative. Therefore, what we do, what we should do for the Lord, we should practice with the spiritual master. We don't have the type of eyes to see the Lord face to face, but the Lord's representative is in human body. Therefore, we can see him, and therefore we have the opportunity to take instruction from him and also practice the way we would do when we meet Krishna face to face. So the spiritual master has to be offered worship and offered service, just like we would do the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's a representative to make it possible for us to serve, to practice serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, if we do something negative towards the spiritual master, we have to understand that it is taken by the transcendental system that we've done something against Krishna. That's what it means. So our relationship with the spiritual master has to be carefully guarded. We should not offend the spiritual master. We should not offend other devotees, because devotees are also the ones whom, through whom we are practicing how to properly relate, because they are, as we talked about earlier, the majority of all living entities are in the spiritual world, and they relate to each other in a very loving way. Therefore, that practice of learning to love, learning to be of help to each other, caring for each other, even more than caring for our individual selves, all of that's very, very important. Now, we have, over the years, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, accepted and lived with quite a few parts of our character that is not nice, to put it mildly. So the process of purification, meaning kicking out the negative, the lower nature of us, should be taken very seriously. We will make mistakes. Sometimes our emotions will get the better of us. And sometimes those negative parts of us might kick in. But we should be able to arrest the situation, and the easiest way to arrest it is to break into the Hare Krishna mantra and start chanting. That definitely changes our moods easily. And on top of that, there's also tolerance. Because if we had to fight every single thing that happens, then we will make ourselves unhappy and make others also unhappy. The one thing that is the worst thing that a devotee can do is to accept that I am at this level and I can never improve. You talk about self-sabotage of one devotional creeper. Never think that way. That's just the way I am. That's the way I am is also deception from Maya. It doesn't mean that it's not true, but it means that purification, there's room for improvement. And we should be about that. So what we're talking about is if we accept the level that we're at without doing any, making any attempt to be a better person, then we're sabotaging our effort to go back to the spiritual world. We have to get close, very close to perfection, so close that the rest of it, which is a residual lower nature, can easily be written off by Krishna to allow us back in. That is our situation. A person that would be allowed to go back to the spiritual world will be the type of person that's almost perfect. Therefore, if we say that this is the level that I'm at and I can't go any further than that, we've actually sabotaged ourselves. For everyone, there's room for improvement. And that should be the priority. Not how to improve our material life, even though that some people might want to do that. That's okay. But you have to understand that that has an end. Death comes and all of that doesn't matter. So whatever we acquire, it's not as important as what we have to do to save our own souls. So improvement, and it comes from asking questions in different situations where you're hearing, what should I do in my situation? Or sometimes some people are a little embarrassed and they don't want to say, this is my situation. Then ask it as a general question. This is a general question. What happens to the devotees who are so and so and so and so? And you describe your own situation, but you put it in a general way. If you're so sensitive that you don't want to talk about my own situation or your own situation directly. The fact is, you just want an answer to what to do. So you can phrase the question like that. Nobody says you have to ask a question to embarrass yourself. No. But you still need answers. So you can put it in a very general way. And it's not wrong, because if you put things in a general way, it is also true. It's true that some other devotees are going through what we're going through. So why can't we generalize? Of course you can generalize. The important point is, what is the answer to that? To help us to improve, to be better devotees. So that's one way to do it. Sometimes when we brought it up, because sometimes a person has an issue they really want to discuss, and they want solutions, and they go, but it's so embarrassing if I bring it up. You can talk to the spiritual master. You can talk to the picture of a spiritual master. The potency is there, even in the picture of a guru. Srila Prabhupada is very kind. And to many of us, except Srila Prabhupada disciples, Srila Prabhupada is the spiritual grandfather, or for some people at this point, even the spiritual great-grandfather. They are very kind. He's very kind. He's very merciful. He has given us so much mercy to the point that we should always remember this. We are chanting 16 rounds because of the mercy of the Lord's devotee, Srila Prabhupada. We are chanting 16 rounds and still being allowed to go back, when in fact, the Vaishnava is supposed to chant 64 rounds, 4 times that amount. And Srila Prabhupada is pegged it as a minimum of 16 rounds. And still you can earn the mercy. Just don't be offensive. That's the important thing. Don't be offensive. Krishna wants us back. And he says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, he talks about the spiritual world. This, the supreme abode of mind is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. And those things are the ones that illumine in the material world. We need the sun, we need the moon. The sun, definitely, when it comes out, you see everything. When it's not out, you see how dark this planet is. The moon, again, scientists don't know this, but this taste of vegetables comes from moonshine. Again, Srimad Bhagavatam talks about all kinds of things. Fire and electricity, because we use those. But in the spiritual world, these are not needed. Spiritual world is self-effulgent. The whole spiritual sky, Brahmajyoti, and very, very beautiful. Everything about the spiritual world is beautiful. It is one big, gorgeous place where everyone is happy and everything is provided. The very thing that we would like to be in, but it's not here. It's in the spiritual world. So we have to aspire to go there and plan to go there and prepare. So Krishna says those who reach it never return to this material world. So that is the solution, to go back to the spiritual world. But Krishna also says, he charges us, those of us that know about it, spread the word to others, because they are also living entities part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the devotees should try to inform as much as possible others who are non-devotees, human beings. We can't do anything with the rest of those who are not in human bodies, but for human beings, we should preach. And so Krishna is very happy with us if we share this information with others. Everybody can preach in their own way, in the situations that that come upon us. Use it to praise the Lord, to talk about the Lord, and especially for those who don't chant, show them the way to go back to Godhead, especially through the chanting of the holy name. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much for coming, for hearing, and therefore we're going through the purification together. This is the time to unmute yourself. If you have any questions, you can ask, or if you have some realizations, you can share, or some other things come to mind that you would like to include here, you can definitely unmute yourself and talk about it. Hare Krishna. So anyone to unmute themselves and start? Hare Krishna. Okay, so if there's no
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare
All glory
Krishna,
to
Prabhupada,
Prabhupada. I think one realization that I got from this class is when you're speaking about when you're reading the three purport, I mean the three two purports and explaining the planetary system. One thought that really came to my mind was, these there is a lack of a better word in the American language for someone who is not Krishna conscious, right? There's a power behind all this, you know. And when Prabhupada is so nicely, emphatically, and strongly explaining the planetary system, it actually shows how how small we are, because sometimes people want to be the controllers of everything, and but then they can't even do a drop of what Krishna has done in terms of the planetary systems, the universe, and and the galaxy, and the list goes on. And it just shows the power of Krishna. There is a power behind this whole thing, and that's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in fact, I was even thinking of this Mataji name. Her name is Aruda Mataji. She's a disciple of senior disciple of Gopal Swami, and she taught her sons. She homeschooled her sons on all subjects from the Bhagavatam, actually. And that's how they were able to, they excelled so well that they were able to enter college at the age of 12 and got their PhD when they were 17 of age, actually. But when you were reading the planetary system, I was thinking this is so scientific. And so, it has the math aspect, the physics aspect, everything in it. And I was wondering, wow, she is an amazing devotee, Mother Aruda, to be able to teach all the subjects, homeschool her kids with all the subjects. It's from Bhagavatam. So it is definitely beyond my understanding and perception and conception, but she was able to do it. But it shows the power, of Bhagavatam, really shows the power of Bhagavatam. That as Mother Gita says, and one Bhagavatam class a day keeps Maya away. It's really powerful. Just wanted to share that thought that's coming to my mind. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Bhagavatam is extremely extensive, and it's also ahead of science in terms of different aspects and different subjects. Practically every subject, Bhagavatam has something to say about it that science does not know yet. Even alchemy. Alchemists trying to get other materials to make gold out of it. Bhagavatam is ahead on that. So many things when it comes to the medical aspect. Bhagavatam is ahead in terms of so many things that is Bhagavatam talks about that scientists don't know about. And that's why in the first purport, Srila Prabhupada brought the point about space travel. He says the astronauts should take note of the fact that there are 14 planetary systems. Now, science is saying that in this universe, there are 9 planets. How far off they are. From 9 planets to 14 planetary systems, each planetary system having a whole bunch of planets in it. Now, slowly, actually from one experiment that some people were trying to get some information from the moon by taking their strong telescopes to try to get the moon as magnified as possible and as close as possible, because telescopes do that. They pull things closer and also enlarge them. You can see it a little more. And then they saw what really surprised them, and they started reporting on that. But there's only been one report, and the scientific world hasn't embraced the whole thing. But this was an observation. They just saw that there were other planets that were crossing the moon from the angle they were looking at. And they kind of determined the rate at which, the average rate at which they were seeing this crossing of the moon from where they were angling it. In other words, you see a shadow go by the moon, a shadow go by the moon, another shadow go by, and each shadow they noticed from the size of it, and they concluded correctly that there were other planets. And there were so many of them that they had to say, and this is the universe here, because we know the moon is in this universe. And if they've seen all of the things, then there has to be more. This is not the stars they're talking about here. This is not illuminate objects. No. And so they coined the term exoplanets, like extra planets. But Bhagavatam says that there are planetary systems in each level, and even the earthly here, we are in Bhuloka, planetary systems. And planetary system means there are planets and planets and planets in one system at one level, based on the virāṭ rupa, at one level. And then higher than that, another set of planets, Bhuvaloka, at another level. And then Swargaloka, another set of planets, heavenly planets, at another level. So they saw that by accident. Sometimes it happens, they're looking for something different, and then a different thing just happens that they weren't planning for. And then they observe it, and then they get very surprised about it. It's happened quite a few times in science. They just stumble on something. So now science is not talked about it in textbooks. People are still going by this nine systems, 9 planets, not systems, 9 planets in this, and they're way off from the truth. And these other scientists put it in a very small in a very short article, that there must be exoplanets. That's it. The Bhagavatam already has talked about it. So that's why we say Bhagavatam is the head of science. Hare Krishna. Any other comments? If not, then we ask again, thank you, not ask, but thank you for coming on. And again, we have to understand this is not our home. And if we take the chanting and the hearing and acting in the mode of goodness, not offending anyone seriously as our lifestyle, then we have a chance to leave this material world and go back to Godhead. Panchakalpatarubhasya kripa sindhibhya evacha patitānaṁ pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you again for coming on. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to Srila Prabhupada.